Hello everyone, I'm Narutolysis. In this episode, we'll be talking about Danzo Shimura. Most viewers can't stand Danzo, they see him as a ruthless, unforgivable villain. And judging from the comments, that opinion couldn't be clearer. Some others believe he was a hardline leader, a hawk who protected Konoha through force. But personally, I don't think either view fully captures who he was. To me, Danzo is the source of all evil. Nearly every tragedy in Naruto traces back to him in some way. And yet, I don't hate him, because even the brightest fairy tales need a villain. As the leading hidden village among the 5 great nations, Konoha can't possibly be sunshine and smiles in every corner. Danzo alone shouldered all the village's sins. By carrying the evil within the story, he allowed the heroes to keep their hands clean, and gave the villains a path to redemption. In a world full of light, he chose to be the darkness. Literally, Danzo is the shadow at the heart of Konoha. Danzo was born into the Shimura clan, one of the 4 founding families of Konoha, alongside the Sarutobi, Senju, and Uchiha. He and Hiruzen Sarutobi grew up together, training under Hashirama and Tobirama Senju. Hiruzen was more like Hashirama, kind, gentle, and approachable. Danzo, on the other hand, mirrored Tobirama, ruthless and decisive. Together, they were like the 2 Senju brothers, perfectly complementary. As they grew older, both became standout ninja among Konoha's younger generation. One day, they accompanied the second Hokage, Tobirama, on a diplomatic mission to the Hidden Cloud. But things took a deadly turn when a rebellion broke out, and the group was surrounded deep in enemy territory. Tobirama made a harsh judgment. In order for the rest to escape, someone had to stay behind and stall the enemy, and the one left behind would almost certainly die. Danzo almost stepped forward. His first thought was, self-sacrifice is a ninja's duty. I've already accepted that I'll die on the battlefield. He glanced proudly at Hiruzen beside him. Hiruzen, do you have the same resolve I do? But just as he was about to speak up, he froze. He clenched his thigh and told himself, say it, just say it. But his body trembled with fear. His rational mind awakened a natural fear of death, turning his bravery into hesitation, and finally, into cowardice. Then Hiruzen spoke, I'll be the decoy. Danzo's trembling stopped. He exhaled, relieved, and instantly filled with shame. A deep sense of regret welled up inside him. He shouted, I was just about to volunteer. But it was too late. That one moment of hesitation set the distance between the two forever. Danzo could never be like Hiruzen, someone willing to die to protect others. And that, ultimately, is what makes a true Hokage. That moment sealed it. Tobirama appointed Hiruzen as the 3rd Hokage and stayed behind himself. For Danzo, this became a lifelong scar. He didn't hate Hiruzen for taking the Hokage seat. What haunted him was the shame, and the fact that when it mattered most, he talked about sacrifice, but couldn't follow through. And that is Danzo's great contradiction. His ideals far outpaced his action. After Hiruzen took over as the 3rd Hokage, Danzo became his aide. With Hiruzen's approval, he established the secret faction known as the Root. Tasks that the Hokage couldn't openly carry out were left to Danzo. Together, Danzo and the Root became Konoha's sharpest, most ruthless blade, eliminating threats both inside and outside the village, operating under the philosophy of better to kill the innocent than let danger slip by. From that point on, Danzo embraced the role of dark, but his darkness existed so that Hiruzen could remain light. Hiruzen even assigned his most beloved student, Orochimaru, to serve as Danzo's right-hand man, a testament to how much he valued Danzo. Konoha had always carried a hidden danger, the 9 tails sealed within the village. After the death of the first Hokage, the technique of wood release, essential for taming tailed beasts, was lost. So Hiruzen and Danzo launched a massive effort to research Hashirama's cells in hopes of recreating the wood relief. But when a large number of test subjects died during the experiment, Hiruzen called it off and sealed all records, treating it as a dark chapter in Konoha's history. Danzo, however, didn't stop. He didn't care how many lives it cost. He wouldn't give up until he succeeded. Working in secret with Orochimaru, Danzo began abducting infants from nearby villages for experimentation. More than 60 babies died, but one success finally emerged. He created a ninja capable of using wood release, a rare feat only seen before in Hashirama himself. That ninja was Yamato. Yet Danzo never told Hiruzen about Yamato's existence, maybe out of personal ambition, or maybe because his methods were simply too dark to be revealed. Later, when Hiruzen discovered the boy with wood release abilities, he didn't punish Danzo. Instead, he deployed the Anbu to surround Danzo's base and brought the child under his own command. Hiruzen had always been lenient with Danzo. As long as Danzo's crimes didn't explode into a public scandal, Hiruzen would simply turn a blind eye. When the 3rd Great Ninja War broke out, Danzo sought to strengthen the Root's intelligence capabilities. He went to a nearby orphanage and forcibly recruited the retired intel specialist, Nono Yakushi. Following Orochimaru's advice, he also drafted the young Kabuto into the Root. Both Nono and Kabuto made tremendous contributions to Konoha, but received nothing in return. Danzo had already planned to discard them once they had outlived their usefulness. The more intelligence they gathered, the closer they moved toward death. This philosophy, eliminate anything that becomes a greater threat than its worth, twisted the once kind Kabuto into an enemy of Konoha, and set him on the path to becoming a major villain. And that wasn't all. During the Third Ninja War, Danzo made another decision that changed the fate of the entire shinobi world. He was directly responsible for the death of Yahiko, the original leader of the Akatsuki. At the time, the war was nearing its end. Konoha's final adversary was Iwagakure, and the two sides were battling in the neutral territory of the Hidden Rain. Danzo led the route in disguises as Iwa Nin, and committed atrocities throughout the area, looting and murdering civilians. His goal? To deepen the conflict between the Hidden Rain and Iwagakure. But during the operation, Danzo discovered a rising group called Akatsuki, and to his shock, one of its members possessed the legendary Rinnegan. Even worse, they were planning to form an alliance with Hanzo the Salamander. Back during the Second Ninja War, just Hanzo alone was enough to trouble Konoha. Even the combined might of Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Orochimaru couldn't defeat him. If Hanzo and the Rinnegan-powered Akatsuki joined forces, the Hidden Rain would become an enormous threat to Konoha. Danzo decided to strike first. He presented the corpses of civilians killed by the root to Hanzo, blaming Akatsuki for the murders. He told him, "Peel away Akatsuki's noble facade, and you'll see nothing more than a band of rebels trying to overthrow your village." Hanzo was already a paranoid man. He changed guards every 24 hours, and even frisked children who came too close. When he heard that Akatsuki's founder was a disciple of his old rival Jiraiya, it made him uneasy. Danzo's words confirmed his suspicions. He didn't need an elaborate lie, just a spark to ignite Hanzo's doubt. Together, Hanzo and Danzo set a deadly ambush. Yahiko was killed. The early Akatsuki, the idealistic version, was wiped out, but once again, Danzo failed to finish the job. Nagato used the power of the Rinnegan to escape with Konan, and with that, Danzo had created yet another sworn enemy for Konoha. As the war between Konoha and Iwagakure dragged on, the number of fallen young ninja kept rising. To prevent even greater losses, the third Hokage offered a peace treaty to Iwagakure. "How can we negotiate peace when the battle isn't even over yet?" Danzo was furious. He accused Hiruzen of making all the previous sacrifices meaningless. Hiruzen had no reply. As Hokage, the burden of the outcome fell on him. And so, to take responsibility for a war that cost so many lives but achieved no clear victory, Hiruzen stepped down as Hokage. This marked a clear political divide between Danzo and Hiruzen. Danzo couldn't stand the diplomatic compromises Konoha was making. He wanted change, radical reform. During the council to select the next Hokage, Danzo pushed for Orochimaru. Though Orochimaru was Hiruzen's student, his cold, ruthless style aligned with Danzo's ideals. But Hiruzen strongly opposed the nomination, arguing that Orochimaru had lost the trust of the people. Instead, he firmly supported a rising star from the battlefield, the Yellow Flash, Minato Namikaze. When Danzo argued that Minato was too young, Hiruzen responded that he would continue to mentor him after stepping down. That enraged Danzo. You're going to guide the new Hokage? Does that mean Konoha will stay weak forever?" Their relationship began to unravel. After the Nine Tails attacked Konoha, and Minato sacrificed himself, Hiruzen once again took up the mantle of Hokage. Danzo had finally had enough. He even plotted to assassinate Hiruzen. But when Hiruzen uncovered the plan, he forgave him. He said, "My beliefs don't allow me to hurt more people. I won't pursue this incident. Where there is light, there must also be darkness. Without both, the world cannot function." It was a subtle message. Hiruzen was telling Danzo, "I will be the light. You can be my shadow. Do the things I cannot." Danzo understood. "You are the light. I am the dark." That's how it's always been. Ironically, that attempted assassination actually brought them closer, in an unspoken, uneasy alliance. Next, the duo faced their most difficult challenge yet, the Uchiha problem. In truth, the root of the conflict had a lot to do with Danzo himself. During the Nine Tails attack, Danzo had ordered the Uchiha clan to stay away from the tailed beast. After the incident, he had the entire Uchiha clan relocated to the outskirts of the village. This enraged the Uchiha. They were one of Konoha's founding family, now suddenly treated as potential enemies and cast aside. Even though they had done nothing, Danzo's suspicion wasn't unfounded. History had shown that Uchiha Madara once used the Sharingan to control the Nine-Tailed. Everyone believed that only the Sharingan had the power to tame the beast, so naturally, suspicion fell on the Uchiha. In reality, Danzo's response was relatively restrained. He didn't strip the Uchiha of their police duties, only moved them farther out, and secretly placed them under surveillance. Ironically, the one responsible for the Nine-Tails attack was an Uchiha, Obito, a ninja thought long dead. The distrust between Konoha and the Uchiha had been seeded back in the era of the Senju. Now, those seeds were beginning to sprout. The villagers felt the Uchiha were arrogant and untrustworthy, and the Uchiha, in turn, began openly discussing discussing a coup. Still, two members of the clan tried to stop it, Shisui and Itachi. They were best friends, practically cut from the same mold. Both had joined the Anbu Black Ops. When the Uchiha first started planning their rebellion, Shisui reported the news to the third Hokage. He said he had a way to stop it. He would use his powerful Sharingan Genjutsu, Kodo Amatsukami, to alter the clan leader's will. Danzo, who overheard, rejected the idea. He didn't believe one man's mind change could cure the Uchiha's collective ambition. Hiruzen, however, asked Shisui to buy some time. He believed that if they treated the Uchiha with kindness, things could be mended. Hiruzen and Shisui seemed to find a peaceful way forward. But once trust is broken, it's almost impossible to restore. Danzo, especially, could never trust the Uchiha again. He believed that to eliminate the threat, it had to be cut out at the root. And as for Shisui's Kodo Amatsukami, to Danzo, that jutsu was itself a threat. If you can control your clan leader, Danzo said, what's stopping you from controlling the Hokage? Or me? So he summoned Shisui under the guise of a private meeting, and attacked him. But Danzo wasn't strong enough. Even with the element of surprise, one look from Shisui had him trapped in a genjutsu. But Shisui let his guard down. He didn't expect that Danzo had a hidden Sharingan beneath his bandages. Danzo used it to activate his Anaji, a forbidden jutsu that rewrites reality for a brief moment. He broke free from the illusion, and stole one of Shisui's eyes. Root agents swarmed in. Shisui had no choice but to flee. There's no official record of where Danzo got that earlier Sharingan, but it's clear he had long coveted the Uchiha's power. He didn't just want to eliminate the clan, he wanted their eyes. With one eye gone, Shisui could no longer use Kodo Amatsukami to stop the coup, so he entrusted his remaining eye to Itachi, and took his own life. The Uchiha's morale was shattered. Their rebellion was postponed. Itachi inherited Shisui's will, to prevent conflict between his clan and the village. At just 13, he became a captain in the Anbu, and was placed under Danzo's command. Many viewers have wondered, why would someone like Itachi work for Danzo? The truth is, their ideals were quite similar. Both believed that a true ninja is an unsung hero, someone who preserves peace from the shadows. But the key difference? Itachi had the courage and strength that Danzo lacked. Danzo was too weak, and could only rely on underhanded tactics. And still, he failed time and time again. In the years that followed, the Uchiha clan continued to build up military strength. Eventually, Itachi's own father demanded that he join the coup. But when faced with a choice between clan and village, Itachi chose the village. Why he made that choice is a story for another day, when we focus on Itachi himself. When Danzo learned of the Uchiha's plan to rebel, he immediately pushed for a preemptive strike. Hiruzen didn't agree, but he didn't stop him either. Yet Danzo knew Root alone couldn't take on the Uchiha. So he turned to Itachi, and proposed a deal. If Itachi helped Konoha wipe out the Uchiha clan, his little brother Sasuke would be spared. Itachi agreed. Some fans believe Itachi was blackmailed by Danzo, forced to commit genocide. But that underestimates him. If it ever came to a war between the Uchiha and the village, Itachi would always choose the village. He had lived through the chaos of the ninja wars. He knew how precious peace was. That's why he was called a genius with a Hokage's mindset since childhood. And as for Sasuke, Itachi was strong enough to protect him on his own. Danzo simply gave him a way to make that protection official. Later, when Danzo and Hiruzen led the Anbu into the Uchiha compound, they found that Itachi had already completed the massacre. Hiruzen ordered all the bodies to be recovered. Danzo, meanwhile, stole a few under the cover of chaos. At that moment, Itachi appeared before Danzo and coldly warned, I saw everything, and I'll keep watching. If you so much as touch Sasuke, I'll leak Konoha's secrets to enemy nation. He was telling Danzo, I'll overlook you stealing the eyes of the dead, but if you lay a finger on my brother, I'll destroy you. After the massacre, Hiruzen removed Danzo from his position as Hokage's advisor. He ordered the dissolution of Root, and confined Danzo to quarters. Frankly, that punishment was far too light. Yet, the root cause of the Uchiha rebellion was the trust crisis triggered by the Nine-Tails attack. But Danzo had a hand in stirring the pot every step of the way. So why was Hiruzen so lenient? Was it just a soft heart? Come on. This is the same third Hokage who offered Niji's father to Kimogakure in a hostage deal. If Danzo or Root ever crossed a line, Hiruzen had the power to shut them down instantly. And he did, when Danzo attempted assassination, hid Yamato, or moved against the Uchiha too early. But he never truly punished Danzo for his actions, because in reality, Hiruzen and Danzo were two sides of the same coin. When it came to the Uchiha massacre, Hiruzen may have spoken against it, but his actions said otherwise. He had Shisui spy on the clan. He sent Kakashi to investigate their movements. defense, and when the coup was about to erupt, he mobilized the Anbu for immediate intervention. Afterward, he met with Itachi in secret and had him join Akatsuki as a spy. Itachi took the fall for wiping out his clan, becoming a wanted man across the entire village. Danzo was the puppet master. Sasuke eventually came for revenge, but Hiruzen? He walked away spotless, untouched by the blood, untouched by the blame. All thanks to Danzo taking the fall. Why would Hiruzen ever punish him? Konoha was founded to erase the divisions between clans, and it could never tolerate a powerful, closed-off family like the Uchiha. No matter who you were, if you went against the village, you would not be forgiven. This was the will of the first and second Hokage, and as their disciples, Hiruzen and Danzo inherited that legacy. You be the good guy, I'll do the dirty work, and I'll take the blame. That's Danzo, the other third Hokage, the one who lived in darkness. You are the Hokage who stands in sunlight. I am the root buried in the earth. That line couldn't be more fitting, because in the end, darkness only exists to highlight the light. Danzo's value depended entirely on Hiruzen, but when Hiruzen died for the village, Danzo's darkness lost its purpose. Danzo tried to follow in the footsteps of the second Hokage, Tobirama. He wanted to become light himself, but he didn't have Tobirama's courage. He didn't even have Hiruzen. He had already proven unworthy of becoming Hokage, so when he abandoned his role in the shadow, when he began seeing the new fifth Hokage, Tsunade, as a political enemy, when he used for the village as a cover for personal ambition, he was doomed to fail. Danzo's identity was always meant to be the other third Hokage, a man who got his hands dirty so others didn't have to. He did terrible things, but carried a twisted sense of justice. I stain my hands so the world can stay clean. But unlike Itachi, who truly bore his burden in silence for a lifetime, Danzo craved the light, born in darkness, yet yearning for glory. This longing led him astray in the later years of the series. From the death of the second Hokage to the end of the Uchiha conflict, the ninja world endured 3 great wars. Konoha faced enemies on all sides and rebellion from within. In those times, Danzo's ruthlessness was a necessary evil, but when peace came, there were fewer dark missions for him to carry out. After the Uchiha were eliminated, Hiruzen removed Danzo from office. It should have been his cue to retire for good, but years later, when Hiruzen died battling Orochimaru, Danzo resurfaced. Ever since Hiruzen became Hokage, Danzo had lived one step beneath him, never quite in power, never quite out. He firmly believed that the village had survived the wars because he had protected it from the shadows. He couldn't stand the thought of being just a rotting root underground. He too wanted to be Hokage, to be carved into the mountainside and bathed in sunlight. In his younger years, Danzo came close to becoming Hokage, but narrowly missed the opportunity. Now that Hiruzen was gone, he believed it was finally his turn. But unexpectedly, Jiraiya brought back Princess Tsunade to take up the mantle as the 5th Hokage. Tsunade, righteous and open, had nothing but disdain for someone as sly and scheming as Danzo. The two couldn't be more different, in both ideology and leadership style. Take Sasuke's defection, for example. If it had been up to Danzo, the order to eliminate him would have come immediately. But Tsunade chose leniency. She didn't even brand him a rogue ninja. Or consider how they handled Naruto, the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. To Danzo, Naruto was a living weapon, a village asset that needed to be locked down and tightly controlled. No leaving the village, no freedom. But Tsunade treated Naruto like family. She placed no restrictions on him, even letting him go out to confront Akatsuki. Danzo saw her as an emotional fool, a soft-hearted Hokage unfit to lead. So he decided that if no one else would enforce the iron rules of the ninja world, he would. At that time, Naruto's squad was preparing to investigate Orochimaru. Danzo approached the village elders, Homura and Koharu, and under the pretense of protecting the Jinchuriki, he pushed to send one of his own operatives along. Tsunade, pressured by her grandfather's appointed elders, had no choice but to agree. The operative, Sai, raised and trained by Danzo himself. On the surface, Sai was there to watch Naruto, but in reality, he carried a top-secret Anbu dossier meant to gain Orochimaru's trust, and was ordered to eliminate Sasuke, Orochimaru's new vessel. A 3-birds-1-stone operation. Classic Danzo, manipulative, cold, and calculating. But as always, things didn't go his way. Not only did Sai's mission fail, he was touched by Naruto's unwavering faith and friendship. When Sai returned to the village, smiling innocently, Danzo realized, just like with Yamato, another of his projects had been wasted, because Danzo had stolen village secret and nearly leaked them to an enemy. Tsunade placed him under heavy surveillance. Danzo had no choice but to lay low, until pain attacked the village, as the fate of Konoha hung in the balance. Danzo ordered the entire root organization to stand down. One of his subordinates pleaded, if the village is destroyed, everything we've done will be meaningless. But Danzo replied, if that's what it takes for me to become Hokage, then it's a necessary sacrifice. He saw Konoha's crisis as an opportunity to seize power. In the end, the village was reduced to rubble. Danzo and Root, untouched. People used to say Danzo's actions, however harsh, were always for the village. But this time, there was no question. He put his ambition far above the village village's survival. That said, Danzo may not have simply been a coward ignoring Konoha's collapse. When you look at all the moves he made during Pain's invasion, you'll see he did have a strategy. Danzo had already gathered intel. He knew the enemy was the leader of Akatsuki, and that their target was Naruto, the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. At that time, Naruto was training in Mount Myaboku, learning Sage Mode. Danzo figured if Pain discovered that the Nine-Tails wasn't in the village, he would retreat. He also knew that Konoha's top fighter, like Guy's squad, Yamato, and Anko, were all away on mission. It wasn't the right time for a decisive battle with Akatsuki, but as soon as the attack began, Tsunade ordered Naruto to return. That ruined Danzo's plan, so he turned again to Hamura and Koharu, urging them to stop Tsunade. But Tsunade ignored their plea. She believed in Naruto. She wanted him to stand and fight beside the village. And she wasn't wrong. A village's fate should be decided by its own people, not its enemies. Still, bringing Naruto back was a gamble, a bet that he could win. If he failed, there'd be no second chance. To Danzo, this was madness. Their enemy had just killed Jiraiya. The Akatsuki's leader was terrifying beyond measure, and Naruto was still just a genin. Calling him back? That was suicide. Without understanding Naruto's main character plot armor, Danzo believed it was wiser to leave him where he was. As the village's shadow, he was used to operating independently during Hiruzen's reign. When Tsunade ignored him, Danzo made his move. He secretly killed the messenger Toad meant to contact Naruto, with the message cut off. He thought the Nine-Tails was safe. In his mind, this was another example of him protecting Konoha from the shadows. He then went underground and told Root not to intervene. According to his calculation, Pain would soon discover the Nine-Tails wasn't in Konoha, and shift his attention to Mount Myaboku. He didn't want his men to charge into a fight they couldn't win, and he wasn't concerned that the village would fall in mere moments. Tsunade was Hiruzen's student. Danzo had watched her grow up. He knew exactly what she was capable of. As long as that woman uses the slug technique, he thought. Not everyone will die. Yes, there would be casualties, but for Danzo, someone who never hesitated to sacrifice others, those deaths were just leverage. He could use them to discredit Tsunade, and pave the way to become Hokage himself. But as always, Danzo's plans didn't go as expected. He knew the enemy was powerful, but he never imagined they'd be strong enough to level Konoha in an instant. He thought he had cut off all communication with Naruto, but didn't count on the Toad sage Fukasaku being in Konoha that very moment, out grocery shopping. The Toad simply summoned Naruto back. Even more shocking, just 3 days later, Naruto returned, having mastered Sage Mode, and he actually defeated Pain. From the outside, it looked like Danzo had killed the messenger Toad, delayed Naruto's return, and nearly caused the total destruction of Konoha. In truth, not a single event went the way Danzo expected, and yet, he still ended up taking all the blame, just by being in the wrong place at the wrong time. After the battle, Tsunade fell into a coma from unleashing her chakra seal. The village needed leadership. Danzo seized the moment, and became Hokage. He hadn't lifted a finger during the fight, but the moment the dust settled, there he was, stepping into the spotlight. Shameless? Absolutely. But Danzo had never cared about shame. He truly believed that only he could protect Konoha, eliminate the Akatsuki, and unify the ninja world. Still, his position was shaky. He had only been appointed by the daimyo. He hadn't passed the confirmation vote, so technically, he was just the acting Hokage. To earn the support of Konoha's ninja, he needed to prove himself, and fate gave him the perfect opportunity. Cloud Village sent word. The Akatsuki had kidnapped their Jinchuriki, Killer Bee. The Raikage was organizing a 5-Kage summit to discuss how to deal with the Akatsuki. Danzo saw it as divine timing. If he could make a strong impression at the summit, he wouldn't just win over the village. He might realize his dream of uniting the entire ninja world under his leadership. And his trump card? The eye he stole years ago from Shisui, imbued with Kodo Amatsukami, a genjutsu powerful enough to rewrite someone's will without them even realizing it. Danzo set off with his 2 strongest root agents. On the road to the summit, they were attacked by enemy Anbu, proof that once you step out of the shadow, the enemies you've made come straight for you. These attackers were nothing but fodder, a warm-up for Danzo to show off. But one enemy was far more dangerous, Uchiha Sasuke. At that moment, Sasuke had just learned the truth about the Uchiha massacre from Tobi, his brother's death, his clan's destruction. He placed it all squarely on the heads of Konoha's leadership, and at the top of that list was Danzo. Guided by Tobi, Sasuke and Team Taka were on their way. At the summit, Danzo played it cool, acting humble and low-key. But behind the scenes, he had already activated Kodo Amatsukami, secretly manipulating Mifune, the samurai leader of the neutral land of Iron, who was was hosting the meeting. Under Danzo's subtle influence, the discussion shifted toward forming a shinobi alliance. At just the right moment, Danzo revealed terrifying intel. The leader of Akatsuki was likely Uchiha Madara. The room froze. All 4 other Kage were stunned. They agreed to unite against this common threat. But who would lead the allied shinobi forces? Mifune, still under Danzo's genjutsu, offered a suggestion. The Kazekage was too young. Tsuchikage was too old. Kirigakure had been infiltrated by Akatsuki before. Hard to trust. And the Raikage, too hot-headed. One by one, they were all ruled out. Until only Danzo remained. Since Akatsuki's next target was the Nine Tails in Konoha, why not let the Hokage command the alliance? Danzo suppressed his delight and feigned humility. If you insist, I'll accept, though I'm not worthy. As always, Danzo knew how to play the political game. At the summit, his performance was flawless. But Danzo's plans never end the way he wanted. One of the Mizukage aides surprisingly possessed the Hyuga clan's Byakugan. He recognized Danzo's eye, the same one he'd seen Shisui wield years ago. In that instant, Danzo's illusion was shattered. His manipulation exposed. Mifune snapped out of it and regretfully said, "Even if you hadn't used genjutsu, I probably would have recommended you." Danzo replied, "Probably isn't good enough. To protect the ninja world, I'll use any means necessary." A noble-sounding line. But in the end, just another polished excuse. After Sasuke and the Akatsuki crashed the Kage summit, Danzo wasted no time. He escaped in the chaos. He may have shaken off Sasuke, but he couldn't escape Tobi. Tobi sacrificed an arm to kill Danzo's 2 elite guards, then released Sasuke and Karen, offering Danzo up for revenge. Now Danzo faced 3 enemies: Sasuke, Karen, and the ever-watching Tobi. He could have survived using Izanagi, the forbidden jutsu that rewrites reality. But this time, he wasn't looking to escape. He wanted to eliminate them all in one strike. Unfortunately for him, as always, things didn't go as planned. The battle became a one-on-one duel between Danzo and Sasuke. But Tobi's silent presence was a massive pressure on Danzo, forcing him to conserve energy in case he needed to face him next. On top of that, Karen's ability to heal Sasuke mid-fight also shifted the tide. Let's take a moment to compare their powers before the clash. Sasuke had just awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan. His left eye could cast Amaterasu, black flames that ignited at his gaze, a technique no one had dodged so far, except the Raikage. His right eye let him control those black flames with Kagetsuchi. He also had access to Susanoo, a monstrous chakra avatar, a literal cheat code. But in terms of raw Sharingan numbers, Danzo absolutely outmatched him. Besides the eye he took from Shisui, Danzo had 10 Sharingan implanted into his right arm, all scavenged from Uchiha corpses after the clan's massacre. To control that many, he had infused his arm with Hashirama's cell, a result of his experiments with Orochimaru. Danzo's wind release was also incredibly powerful, strong enough to slice through Susanoo. It might have been second only to Naruto's Raisen Shuriken. Even his taijutsu wasn't bad. On paper, Danzo was a powerhouse, stacked with hacks and strength, but because he rarely fought himself, his battle instincts were lacking. Before the fight began, Sasuke asked, "Were you among the Konoha elders who ordered the Uchiha massacre?" He was trying to confirm what Tobi had told him. Danzo took the opportunity to sneak attack, but Susanoo caught him with ease. Danzo now understood why Sasuke was after him, and assumed Itachi had spilled the truth. "Damn Itachi, I didn't think he was that kind of person. Guess you were special to him after all." But in reality, Itachi never told anyone. Tobi had revealed everything to Sasuke. Danzo scoffed. This world was never meant to be clean and beautiful. Not just Itachi. Many shinobi carry their burdens in the dark. But you just want to erase your hatred. You've made the Uchiha's sacrifice meaningless. Say what you will about Danzo, but he did have a point. Itachi gave everything to protect the village and his brother. Yet here Sasuke was, trying to destroy them both. After hearing Danzo admit to his crime, Sasuke crushed him with Susanoo, squeezing him into black sludge. But before Sasuke could even enjoy his revenge, a voice snarled behind him. "Let's finish this fight with our eye." Danzo activated Izanagi, a forbidden Uchiha technique that sacrifices a Sharingan to rewrite reality for 1 minute. It looked like a simple substitution jutsu in the anime, but in truth, he became completely invincible for 60 seconds. He had no reason to dodge Sasuke's attack. Unfortunately, the animation didn't make that clear, making it seem like Danzo was throwing away eyes for nothing. But using Izanagi, he had at least 3 solid chances to kill Sasuke. First chance, when Sasuke's Susanoo faltered, Danzo launched a full-force wind release, vacuum shuriken, and followed up with hand-to-hand combat. Tobi almost jumped into help, but Sasuke's Hawk summon swooped in and grabbed the wind shuriken, throwing it back and slicing Danzo's arm, giving Sasuke time to escape. Second chance, Sasuke cast a genjutsu, but Danzo broke out and trapped Sasuke in a cursed seal bind. Sword raised, he sneered. "Why are you so desperate to protect this worthless life, Itachi?" Tobi prepared to use Kamui to rescue rescue Sasuke. But those words triggered Sasuke's rage. With sheer willpower, he powered up Susanoo into its second state and broke free. Third chance, Danzo tried brute force. He summoned his monstrous dream-eating beast, Baku, using its wind vacuum to pin Susanoo down. Then he sliced at it with wind release. But Sasuke calmly fired off a simple fireball jutsu. It burned Baku's mouth, forcing it to release Susanoo. And with that, Susanoo struck back, smashing Danzo out of the air. Those three exchanges made one thing very clear. The gap in battle skill between Danzo and Sasuke was huge. And in the end, Sasuke secured victory, not through brute strength, but through strategy. With quiet confidence, he told Danzo, "Once all 10 Sharingan on your right arm are closed, your jutsu ends." Danzo's eyes widened. "You know about Izanagi?" Sasuke smiled knowingly. So it's true then. He had been baiting Danzo the entire time, and the master manipulator got played. Danzo looked down at his arm. Only one Sharingan remained open. He poured his last chakra into a golden wind blade, ready to settle the battle in one final strike. Sasuke didn't hesitate. He charged forward with his Chidori blade. They clashed, and both landed fatal blows on each other. Danzo chuckled through the pain. "Trying to take me down with you? Well, too bad. My last Sharingan is still open." But a second later, he coughed up blood. "What? Why didn't Izanagi activate?" He glanced at his arm, horrified to see that the final eye had already closed. It turned out, Izanagi had run out just before the last attack. Sasuke had tricked him using Genjutsu, making him believe one eye was still active. Since the battle began, Sasuke had been observing every detail. How Danzo constantly checked his arm to count Izanagi's remaining time. How his Genjutsu could briefly distort Danzo's perception, even if the Genjutsu couldn't hold him. It was enough to throw off his judgment, just for a second. Sasuke kept attacking relentlessly, a storm of pressure, leaving Danzo no room to keep track. In the end, it was Sasuke's intellect that gave him the edge. If we're being fair, their final clash looked more like mutual destruction. But Sasuke had Karin, a living health potion, ready to heal him with a single bite. Danzo, on the other hand, had nothing left. No Sharingan, no chakra, no hope. He had bet it all and lost. But just then, Danzo's right eye, the one that had used Shirsue's Sharingan during the 5 Kage summit, reactivated. Shirsue's Kodo Amatsukami was so powerful that the cooldown normally lasted over a decade. But because Danzo had implanted Hashirama's cell, he had shortened that to just a few hours. Izanagi was only a backup. Kodo Amatsukami was his true ace, his ultimate weapon. Originally, Danzo had intended to save it for Madara, but now, backed into a corner by Sasuke, he hesitated. Should he use it on Sasuke? At that moment, Sasuke charged in with another Chidori. Thanks to the insight granted by Shirsue's eye, Danzo easily dodged, looped behind, and grabbed Karin as a hostage. He noticed Sasuke was struggling to maintain his Sharingan. His eye power is nearly depleted, not a threat anymore. Better save Koda Amatsukami from Madara. With a hostage in hand, Danzo lowered his guard slightly, but before he could exhale, Chidori spear, right through Karin, and straight through Danzo's heart. Sasuke didn't hesitate. Danzo's hesitation cost him everything. He didn't even get the chance to use Kodo Amatsukami. Realizing he was out of options, Danzo fled, wounded, desperate, and staggering like a stray dog. For Konoha, I must survive. I'm the only one who can change this ninja world. His delusions had reached their peak, twisted and obsessive. He had come to believe that his own life was Konoha's destiny. To save himself was to save the village. But then Tobi appeared, blocking his escape. Shirsue's eye. Finally, I'll take it. In that moment of despair, Danzo was hit with a sudden flash of clarity. He remembered long ago, the moment he and Hiruzen had argued over who would stay behind. Back then, their teacher, Tobirama, had told them, the time to sacrifice will come. Until then, preserve your life. He remembered his rival, Hiruzen, always one step ahead. Looks like, this time, it's finally my turn. Danzo ripped open his robe. A sealing formula glowed across his chest. For Konoha, I won't let any of you leave here alive. He activated the reverse 4 symbol sealing technique, a deadly jutsu that would drag everyone around him into the grave. The scene of Danzo's death was laced with poetic irony. All his life, he wore black, but ever since becoming Hokage, he dressed in pure white. Now, as he tore away that white robe, the blood pouring from the seal was pitch black. Danzo had always been darkness, and in the end, he finally awoke from his self-serving dream. You are the leaves, bathed in sunlight, while I am the root, buried in darkness. In death, Danzo finally saw himself for who he really was. And that's the end of the story of Shimura Danzo. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'm Narutolysis. See you in the next episode.